Okay, now we are starting today. Thank you everyone for coming today here to our first virtual session of our citizen-assigned coastal monitoring network of the Eastern Shore. That is a quite long name. This is why we create some kind of acronym, but we will be working to perfectionize this acronym. But from now on, the important thing is that we are here today. The idea, the goal with these sessions is that we continue working together and we can meet at least once a month because this project will go during 3 years at least. We will have the opportunity to have at least 36 different virtual sessions so we can continue learning about how to monitor the coast and how to take care of our coast on the Eastern Shore. The agenda for today is first, I just want to, and because now we are recording this meeting, that everyone knows what is ESCOM or the Coastal Monitoring Network. Later, I will introduce you to the Telegram group because not everyone now is in the Telegram group. So the idea that ideally all of us should be there on the Telegram group because it's easier to communicate through there, and also to give you extra information for your scientific citizen science activities. But it will be just 10 minutes because later will be our guest speaker, that is Jim Abraham, who will tell us about CoCoRaHS monitoring that we already know. However, we are in winter and we have new challenge to face in winter when we go to a ring gauge and there is not water, it's ice. So what can we do? Okay, Jim will explain us about that. Later, we have a space for questions. I hope you have many questions to ask to Jim about the CoCoRaHS in general terms, about the observations, the app, the different parameters, etc. And we will end the meeting with some announcements. And this is the idea that in the future, we continue with a quite similar agenda in which we will use every month, we will use a similar agenda. So we continue be working together. And if you have anything that you want to propose, because we are at the end, we are a network. So the idea that this is not a project that somebody is leading. This is a collaborative effort. So the idea is that we are building together this network. So anything that you want to share with us, that you want to discuss, will be an opportunity at the end. So I will start in the agenda just to show you very briefly about this, which is our network. What means exactly our network? So if you remember in our last activity that we had in Chin Harbor, we were speaking about that we have this is a new phase of the project. And the idea that this phase will be 3 years, and we are something called like Citizen Science Coastal Monitoring Network of the Eastern Shore. But what is exactly that? We are a group of people, we are citizens, that we are doing science. But what we are doing together, the same, is that we are focused on the coast. This is why we are the coastal monitoring. But also we are working on the Eastern Shore. This is our study area. So the idea is that we will be working the next 3 years in try to create as many coastal climate teams as we can. So we have the opportunity to stay together and to collaborate one to another. This is why it is important to start just explaining a little bit about why we are this citizen science. This is the first part. We are citizen scientists, but we are monitoring the coast, but the coast, not all the coast, the eastern shore. Okay, from Dalhousie University, and this is why now we are in a call, a Teams call that is Dalhousie to host the meeting and this activity. But Dalhousie University will be help the coastal monitoring network to advance from the scientific perspective. But at the same time, it's important to highlight that this network is established to first monitor and document the coastal change along our eastern shore, but also to engage you to the scientific research. And this is why it's important, this activity today, because you will learn a little more about science, in this case today, about how to measure snow and pluviosity in -0. But the idea that in each of these webinars, we will learn something new related with our coastal monitoring activities. But the idea is also that you are empowered in risk governance, and you and I, because I'm also citizen scientist because I live on the Eastern Shore, so that we are empowered for risk governance, because if we understand better what's happening with the coast, we will be better prepared for any kind of a climate-related event. But also important to create a long-term data set for understanding the climate change impacts. This is something that we would like to do with the project, with Dalhousie, and you will be helping us to create this data set, and finally to support evidence-based coastal management decision. This is just to recall why we are here today as our first activity. This is the first point in the agenda. The second one is about about our Telegram group. Just to those that are not they are not familiar with the Telegram. Telegram is an app that is mainly for messaging. There are other similar. The most well known is WhatsApp, but the big difference with Telegram is that it is a lot more powerful than anyone. So just to show you, we have a group on Telegram. Here we have, until now we have 7 members, but the idea is that today are connected Candace, Dave, that the idea that you also will be part of the group. Now we have here the members, and the idea of this group is that here we have the different kind of parameters that we are measuring. We have about the ocean monitoring that we didn't start yet. The idea that we will start next year, collecting some data about waves and about currents. The biota monitoring that we already started, and today we have one student from Dalhousie that is from biology that is here with us just now. And the idea that we continue working in the flora, the beach flora, but the idea is to add also some new parameters, mainly with fauna. So here in this subgroup, this topic chat, we are speaking about that. We have the coastal monitoring sites in which we are including here pictures. We add any information that we consider that is relevant to understand better the sites, the coastal sites in which we are working on. We have the weather monitoring topic, and here we are sharing all the information about the weather. For example, here you can see the screen that we have with our weather stations, the CoCoRaHS rain gauge. So here we share information about all the parameters related with weather. And finally, we have here the beach monitoring that is related with mainly with the beach profile. Here we can see about the information about the beach profile, and also the coast reach or the coast nap or coastie. There are 3 different names of the same project, but these stands that we will be installing in Moosehead Beach and in St. Andrews Church at the beginning, and later in the Black Dog Cove, and in halfway island and in Turner Island. That this standard will take pictures, and later we can analyze the coastline change. All of this information we will be sharing it by here. For example, here this is a tutorial that last week I sent to all of you to explain how to include the data into the CoCoRaHS. So this is the kind of information that we share in this Telegram group. Here in the meeting and field trips topic is where we share mainly this all the pictures, all the videos. For example, here we have exactly our last time with Jim. Here we can see the video in which Jim explained us everything about the rain gauges. So there, if you have not been there in this activity, you can just go to the video and just can see the video because it's in our Telegram group. But this group is a private group. It's not that anyone can enter to the group. So you need to be a member. And but this is our space of communication and our space of interaction in a quite quick way. Also is the space in which I can share with you tutorials, extra information that I consider that could be interested for your citizen science activities. This was just to show you about the information that we have already on the project. And I don't want to use more of Jim's time. So I will invite to Jim that the place is yours, the space is yours, Jim. So welcome again here to our Citizen Science Initiative. And we are very happy to have you here.
Gracias, Camilo, and nice to meet everybody again, those who I've met before. And just to say that I've had a lot of people comment to me about the new stations on the Eastern Shore. I had a meeting last week with the CBC meteorologist, Ryan Snodden. He says, it's so fantastic. We have where these stations come from. And I said, oh, actually, I told him a little bit about your network. And the fellow who has a station in Spanish Ship Bay, he says, I have people on either side of me now, finally. So, the data that you're doing, not only is it valuable for the work you're doing on the Eastern Shore with the coastal monitoring, it's also valuable to a large number of stakeholders. And now that it's wintertime, it's really important we talk a little bit about snow. I used to look after the weather, water, and climate monitoring program for Environment Canada. And the thing that frustrated me the most was the snow measurements were either automated, so a little camera or a little weighing gauge, or they were taken at the airports by the observers at the airports where the snow blows away because airports are exposed to the wind. My observation is the best snow measurements are done in people's backyards. And they're best done by human beings, not by machines. So the work, and this is Canada, we should actually be able to measure snow and determine how much snow we have. And snow is an important part of our water cycle. It's certainly important for transportation. It's also important in that, as I said, it contains water, and when it builds up on structures, for example, with ice and snow building up, it can actually be a hazard and cause roof collapses, especially on greenhouses or flat roofs. And since it's an important part of the water cycle, the buildup of snow over the winter is important for available water resources, for drinking water, for farming, and in significant cases where there's a large amount of snow and you get a quick warm up in the spring, it can actually result in flooding. So knowing how much snow is on the ground is extremely important for understanding the water cycle and understanding the availability of the water and the risks associated with too much water. So the tools you need are not too complicated. Of course, you all have your CoCoRaHS rain gauge system with the outer funnel and the inside smaller cylinder, and then the outside cylinder. You may have an extra one. And the beauty of having an extra one in the winter time, your gauge often will fill up with snow and ice and frozen water. And it's nice to run out, grab the gauge, replace it with the spare gauge, and bring it into the house so you can do the measurements in a nice, comfortable area. The other thing is in the wintertime, you should take the small cylinder out and take the funnel off the top, because if the cylinder, which is quite narrow, fills up with water and then freezes, it can break because it's so small. So the idea is to remove these now, or especially when you know there's cold weather coming, and just have the large cylinder attached to your CoCoRaHS pole. And when it's time to measure when it's only rain, it's quite simple. You take your cylinder and your funnel, and then you just carefully pour the amount of rain that fell in your gauge into the small gauge, and you can measure it. And if you do it inside, of course, it's much more comfortable and you're less likely to make a mistake because your hands are cold and the wind is blowing. So the first recommendation is to take the little cylinder out and the top off so that the large 10-centimeter gauge can catch the variety of precipitation that we get in the winter: the rain, the snow, the freezing rain, and the ice pellets. And they all fill up into here. And then if you have the spare gauge, you can just replace it, bring this inside, and measure the amount of precipitation. I'll get to how to facilitate that in a bit. The other thing, of course, measuring snow is a very important tool. That's the ruler. And hopefully we won't need too much of this meter stick, but I recommend getting a meter stick because not only do you have the opportunity of measuring the snow for every 24-hour period, also it's important to measure the snow on the ground, because that's the available water for the water cycle. And so we measure at least once a week, measure the amount of snow on the ground. So I'll get into the details of that a bit. So where do you measure the snow in your backyard? So I'll just show you where mine is in my backyard, just to give you an example. Okay. So this is my deck, and I have my CoCoRaHS gauge. I had just put it together quickly, but my gauge now does not have the funnel, and I took the cylinder out. It's at the end of my deck. And then facing east, my backyard luckily faces east. I've put a square white piece of wood. The reason I have it painted white is because if the sun is shining after the snow has fallen before I measured it, it will melt. It will melt a lot quicker on a dark surface like asphalt or even stone than it will on a white board. So we recommend you find something like 60 centimeters by 60 centimeters or 18 by 24. I think mine's about 12 by 18, but just a a whiteboard to measure the new snow on. I've also got a stick here next to my gauge so that if the snow falls and it's deep, I want to be able to find where my snowboard is. So I have a stick here to find it. I probably don't really need it because I know it's halfway between these two flower pots. The other thing is you want it out in as much of an open area as possible, because my garage is on this, just on the left. You don't want snow blowing off of your structures, your house or your garage, or the trees onto your snowboard. So you try to put it in as much as you can in the middle of the yard. My house is on the west side, so I'm facing east. Most snowstorms come, the wind is coming from the north or the northeast, maybe the east. And so that's the direction the snow will be coming towards your CoCoRaHS gauge and your snowboard. So in as much as possible, try to keep that area open so that the snow isn't being collecting on the trees or collecting on the building and not falling on the yard. If you don't have this white thing, white square, it's not a big deal. I found that here on the top of this little deck is good to measure my snow. The grass is usually a good spot, especially when the ground is frozen. Some people measure snow on the top of their car, and so you might find a lot of drifts. And so what's on the snowboard may not be representative of the snow that's around your yard. So you may just want to go out and measure it in several different places and take an average. But ultimately, the board is the location, especially when the wind isn't blowing too strong, to consistently measure it and measure the snow in the past 24 hours using a ruler and recording it. And I'll get into a few of the details of that in a moment. So does anyone have any questions about where to measure snow in your backyard or wherever you have your gauge set up? It should be relatively flat. Okay, well, you guys don't be shy about asking questions at any time. So I'm going to stop sharing that, and I'm going to go to where we enter our data. So here's the screen for entering the data on my computer. Some of you may enter the data on your phone. It's a little bit different on the app, but essentially the first area is the amount of total precipitation in your gauge. So you have your large cylinder, and the number that's reported in here, do you see my cursor? Camilla, does my cursor show up on the screen?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so in here, you're entering the total amount of precipitation. Oh, my cylinder just fell on the floor. So you measure the rain and melted snow or melted ice, whatever collects in the last 24 hours in your gauge, you measure that in millimeters. That's the total amount of precipitation that has fallen in the past 24 hours. Now, when your gauge is full of snow or full of snow mixed with rain, or snow mixed with rain and freezing rain, the kind of mess we get here in Nova Scotia, you may need to melt the snow or wait for it to melt before you pour it into the cylinder, the smaller cylinder, to measure the amount of water. You can wait, and of course, it may take quite a long time, especially if there's ice in your large gauge. You can take your gauge and you can sit it in a pot of warm water, for example. And when you do that, the water surrounding your large gauge will melt the precipitation that's inside the gauge. Don't put it in the microwave. It'll probably tip over, or in my microwave, it doesn't necessarily fit. The other thing you can do is add some warm water. So you can take some warm water and you measure the amount of warm water in your small gauge. I'll have to go get my small gauge off the floor here. So you've got your empty gauge. All your precipitation is in your large gauge, but let's say it's frozen snow and ice, and so you want to melt it quickly. So you pour the warm water into this gauge, and then you measure it. And so this is warm water, and I look and I say, okay, I've got 16 millimeters of warm water, and I add this to the snow and ice, and I swish it around until it's all melted, and then I pour it back. I should put this thing on the top so I don't spill, but for the sake of the exercise, I'll just pour it back. And now I have 24 millimeters. And of course, I had 16 that I added. So the total amount of water from the snow or the snow and rain or from the ice is 8 millimeters. So what you should do before you add the amount of warm water, you measure it, write it down, because you may forget. So you write that you say you pour this in, measure it, pour it into the gauge, swish it around so it melts, and then pour it back in. Write down the total number and then do the subtraction. So 24 minus 16 is 8 millimeters. So the amount of snow, melted snow, or melted snow and ice in my gauge was 8 millimeters. Any questions on, there's a third, even easier way of measuring the amount of water, and that's by weighing it using a little kitchen scale. So those of you, it's about, I think these are $10 or $12 at Walmart. But if you have a kitchen scale, the idea is weigh the empty gauge and always keep this number saved somewhere. So I just weigh this empty gauge on my scale. So it's, I can't, anyways, so if I weigh the empty gauge, it's 454 grams. Most of the gauges are going to be between 450 and 455 grams. Store that number, and then when the gauge has the precipitation in it, and it's snow and ice and water and you don't want to melt it, you just weigh it. And so now this weighs 612. You take 612 from 454, and the difference is something like 158 or something like that. And you multiply that by 0.126. And that's just the calculation that works. And so it makes it very easy to measure the amount of water that's in the ice before it even melts. Once it does melt later on in the day, you can check it. And if it's off a little bit, you can adjust the observation that you put, the data that you put in. But for something quick and dirty, you just measure how much water, the weight of the water, frozen, snow, ice, water in the gauge. You know the weight of the gauge already, and then take the difference, the total weight minus the weight of the gauge, and multiply the difference by 0.126. That'll give you a very good close approximation of the amount of water in the water equivalent in the gauge. So that's a quick and dirty way of doing it without having to melt it. And then you can wait and check it a little bit later. You can actually work it out yourself. If you wanted to put 10 millimeters of water in the gauge and see how much 10 millimeters weighs, and then you know that 10 millimeters weighs this, what does 1 millimeter weigh? And then you can do the conversion using your own calculations. But believe me, multiplying the weight by 0.126 gives you a pretty good answer. So back to our I'm just going to go back to our sheet.
Yes, Robin has a question, so you want to ask Robin?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is in terms of measuring snow, then I'm assuming that we put the ruler down in the snow,
Yes.
so it meets the surface and see how high it is, and then we clean the surface off because we want it clear to start from zero again for the next day, right?
That's right. So the thing to do is, okay, if it's 7 in the morning or 8 in the morning or whatever time's convenient for you, is you go out and put the ruler down on the board or wherever you're measuring. Two things to remember. One is make sure the ruler is as vertical as possible, so it's going straight into the snow. And the second thing is, because snow has got a lot of crystals on it, it's not like really a flat surface. You should bend down as low as you can to read the ruler, because if you read it at an angle, you're not going to get exactly the as good of an observation. And one of the reasons is when you stick the snow in the ruler in the snow, it may push the snow down a bit near the ruler. And so if you look at an angle, it's actually a lower number. If you look straight across the snow, it's actually a better estimate.
Yeah.
That's one reason sometimes I use the little stone wall, because I can bend down and look right on the stone wall and see how much snow is there. And if it's obvious to you that the snow where you normally measure it, as I said, has blown off or is not representative of the overall snow in your backyard, that new snow, because around here, of course, often when it snows, the ground is bare before it snows because of how many rain events we get. You can adjust it, go around and measure it throughout your 2 or 3 places in the yard and take an average. but it's simply a ruler and trying to get as close an estimate in centimeters. And this is where you put the 24-hour snowfall, accumulation of new snow in centimeters. So the first number on the top, the rain gauge catch, that's the water, the total amount of water that has fallen in the last 24 hours, frozen, melted. Once it's melted, you put that equivalent water in millimeters in the top gauge catch. For the 20, yes?
Just a couple of things with the measuring the snow. It can vary an enormous amount because it drifts, right?
Yes.
So how do I decide if it ranges from 0 to half a meter? How do I decide what the appropriate amount
So
is?
if there's drifts all over the place and you don't have anywhere where it's been calm enough so that you have a nice level area, I would just take the highest drift and the bare, so just divide it in two. So you've got a drift that's 30 centimeters, and you've got next to it a bare grass. Quick and dirty would be 15 centimeters. The other thing you can do, because the snow has fallen in your large cylinder, although the snow that falls in the large cylinder, it's quite fluffy because it doesn't settle. It kind of sticks to the sides, and it's usually an overestimation. But when you pick up your large cylinder to melt that snow, if you just give it a little shake and then put a ruler on it, it'll give you another estimation of the amount of snow that fell, especially if there's a lot of drifts.
Yeah, but the drifts are usually in similar places. So part of it is, I guess, finding a place for your white surface that's relatively, that the snow tends to fall in an even amount in that location.
Exactly, and I find that an area that is in the lee of trees. So if there's trees to the east and north of where your gauge is, but you're let's say 15 meters away from the trees, you'll end up with a lot less drifting there. I get where mine is. There's a line of trees in the end of my backyard where the fence is, and I end up getting nice even snow accumulation on that area where I have my snowboard, whereas my driveway is full of drifts because the wind is blowing around the house and stuff like that. But where there are trees, if you are lucky enough to have trees in your measurement areas, it can buffer the winds, and you can end up getting a more smooth area of snow.
Also, you're saying that during let's say during freezing periods, that we should take out the small cylinder and take off the funnel and just have the large cylinder.
Yes.
But you know, of course, that we go back and forth and back and forth. So I guess it's some judgment matter of watching the forecasts.
The easiest thing to do is leave it off all the time.
Yeah.
And that's the recommendation that CoCoRaHS has.
Yeah.
Is they'll send, and you may have gotten it. You may have gotten an email from them reminding you. They send newsletters out every once in a while, and they'll make the recommendations to take your small cylinders out and just leave it.
Yeah.
Because I'm looking at the weather every day, I take mine in and out. But the recommendation is to leave the large gauge only, and just bring the cylinder in the house and use it to measure the details.
And it's okay for the white surface to be somewhat raised. You're saying you have it up on that little ledge sometimes.
That's right. But you got to be careful. If it's too raised, you're going to get wind blowing it off. The other thing is when you're finished measuring for that day, you should put the snowboard on top of the snow rather than dig a hole and put it on the bottom of the grass.
Mhm.
Because what will happen is as the snowpack grows in your yard, it may fill in that hole, and then you're getting a higher estimation of snow because it's blown in the hole rather than on top of the existing snowpack.
Mhm.
So just put it on top of the snow that's already there, smooth it out, and lay it on top.
Okay, thanks. And you were going to talk about a snowpack depth too. I guess that's also a question of maybe trying to measure it at the same location. Or,
Yes. So, but we'll just make sure the snowfall. The other thing about snowfall, especially here in Nova Scotia, you may notice that it's snowing like heck when you get home in the evening, and you've got quite a bit of snow, and then the snow stops, or the snow is changing to rain. The best observations, if you're able to do it, is to run out and measure the depth of the snow before it changes, or just as the snow stops. Because what happens is overnight, especially if the wind is blowing, the snow will pack down, and so you'll get a lower number in the morning than you would have that evening when the snow had stopped. And so the best observations are taken when the snow stops or just before it changes to rain. And you'll get, more accurate peak snowfall before it's settled or melted or what have you. That may be difficult to do because, of course, we're not sitting around our backyards waiting for the snow to stop. And we have things to do, and we may be shoveling. And one thing to be careful with your snow blowers, if you have a snow blower, is not make sure you don't blow the snow towards your gauge or towards your board, because if you're clearing your snow before you take your measurement, you're going to end up with new snow that you've blown from your driveway. So I try, the first thing I do before I start clearing the snow is to actually measure it first thing in the morning. But as I said, if you're really keen, you can measure the peak snow before it has time to pack or before it has time to melt. If you don't have a chance to do it, when you go out in the morning at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m., whatever time you take are usually taking your precipitation measurement, just measure the amount of snow at that time. And you can, in the observation notes, you can indicate there was maybe 10 centimeters. I'm guessing approximately 10 centimeters last night before it melted, even without measuring it. Because these details, these observation notes are useful. I mean, I have done a number of studies for lawyers because of insurance claims and stuff. And some of them were related to whether or not there was snow on the ground and how much snow was on the ground, for traffic accidents or for slips and falls, et cetera, et cetera. So if you can put any details in the observation notes to help the folks that are looking at your data to understand what has happened in the last 24 hours, that's also useful. So don't be shy to put any random notes in your observation square there. Anything you think might be helpful. For example, if there's a bunch of drifts that are 3 feet here and 0 there, you can simply put, I couldn't measure the snow in my yard, so I simply took an estimate of the depth of the snow in my gauge in the large cylinder. Just anything to indicate some uncertainty associated with the snow, because there's no it's a difficult thing measuring snow. But the humans, because we're observing what's around in the backyard in the context, we do the best job, much better job than a machine, and we can put some of these details in our observations. So
I have a question, Jim.
sure.
When you say that if we reach to measure the snow just after end, and it will be, imagine, 7 p.m.
Yeah.
But because this observation normally we collect every day at morning,
Yeah.
should we send a new one at 7 p.m. or should we send in the next day, but with the measure of the day before?
So in the morning, you can put the 7 p.m. observation if there was no additional snow, and say that is the snow accumulation, the accumulation of new snow. You can also put in the observations that was the peak snow that you observed last night and it has settled. You can even say in the observation note, now at 7 a.m. it has settled down to from 5 centimeters to 2.5 centimeters. Or you can do the opposite. You can put the 2.5 centimeters at 7 a.m. and put in observations. Well, it was 7 or 5 last night, but the weather services who use these observations and the snow clearing operations, they like to see what the maximum snow depth was before it settles, because the snow depth before it settles is snow that they're usually responsible for clearing, and so they like to record, have measurements of what the peak snow was just after the snow stopped or before it changed to rain.
Okay, yeah, and another question that I have is, it happened here before. There is just a small layer of snow, just a couple of centimeters.
Yes.
Should we record that? That is, just a couple of centimeters. So it will disappear 2 hours later.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Any amount of snow, even a trace of snow, you should record it. So you can record it the night before when it was at its peak, and put it, say at 7 a.m. you can say we had 2 centimeters of snow. But then in the observation note, just say it melted by 7 a.m. but it was 2 centimeters last night, but put the 2 centimeters in the 24-hour snowfall.
And another question was with this conversion that you said, when we melt the snow that is in the rain gauge, that you say that it's multiplied by 1.06. And I did the exercise with the number that you were saying.
0.126, yeah.
Yeah, one is 1.126.
No, 0.126.
Okay, yeah. No, because my question was which are the units? In this case, is
In
centimeters.
The units that you get will be in millimeters, because you're measuring the water.
Okay.
Because that's not the snowfall, that's the water, melted snow.
Okay.
And then you see the 24-hour snowfall. Underneath the depth of the snow, you also want to include the melted value of the snow. So if there's only snow in your gauge and you've melted it or you've weighed it, you put that number in here. So if you have 10 centimeters of snow, typically you'll get 10 millimeters of water in that snow. In the Eastern Shore, you probably sometimes get more because it's wet snow. You might get 15 millimeters in 10 centimeters, but you record the amount of water that you have up above if it's only snow. If it's snow changing to rain and a mixture of stuff, what you do, and I'll have to go back onto my screen here. And this is if you've got snow that you've measured and you want to know how much water is in that snow, but you've also got rain that has fallen in your gauge, and you want to measure the amount of water in the snow before it changed to rain. What you do is you take your gauge and turn it upside down. I'll just get rid of the water in it. So you go to your snowboard. You go to your snowboard and you turn the gauge upside down over the snow. And then you can take a spatula, and so the snow doesn't fall out, and just turn it out, and then you can melt that. So that's the best measurement from your snowboard of how much water is in that snow, especially if your main gauge has a bunch of rain in it or ice or what have you. So the best estimate is by going to the board and measuring what they call the core. And the core is the amount of, you just take the amount of snow in here, you make sure you've got a spatula, turn it over and melt it. And that's the amount of water in that 5 centimeters of snow. And that's the most accurate way of doing it. If you don't have time to do it, you can use, as I said, most times it's only snow, so you just, or when it's just changing to snow, what I'll do is, or to rain, I'll run out, switch the gauges, and bring the snow in, melt it, and then I'll have that number in my, and that's the number I'll use for the snow water equivalent for that new snow. Because even in the morning it might be gone, but it's useful to know whether the snow was wet or dry or fluffy or not, because the amount of water in it, if it's quite dry snow, you can end up with, it's very easy to blow. If it's really wet snow, of course, it's hard to shovel and sticky and makes good snowmen. So if we go back to the CoCoRaHS, okay. So this one, most of the time, you don't have to worry about, you just measure what's in your gauge, that snow. It only becomes complicated when you've got mixed precipitation. And I try to do a measurement before it changes, but sometimes you can't, and sometimes you won't have a clue because you didn't have a chance to measure it and it's all melted away. And so you just put down in the observation, the snow all melted. And I think there was about 5 centimeters before it melted. You can only do what you can do. Now, when it comes to the snowpack, the snow depth, you can do this pretty easy every day, just measuring the depth of the snow. So you go around your yard and basically measure down to the bottom of till you hit the grass or you hit the deck or what have you. You just measure the depth of the snow. If you're really keen, every Monday, CoCoRaHS likes folks to measure how much water is in your snowpack. And to measure how much water is in your snowpack, once again, you're going to go, you might have a foot of snow and ice, and you turn your gauge over, you push it down into the snow and ice, you put the spatula on the bottom, you turn it over, and then you weigh it or you wait for it to melt. Why this is useful is because in a winter like we had in 2015, we had layers of snow and freezing rain and rain, ice, snow, and I weighed the snow. I had 2 feet, so 60 centimeters of snow in my backyard, and I weighed it, and it had the equivalent of 200 millimeters of precipitation, which is beyond the building code for my roof. So I knew that I had to start moving some of that snow off of my roof because it weighed too much. So if you have more than 200 millimeters worth of snow in your snowpack that's on your roof, you should actually, that's heavy. You should actually start trying to safely remove it. And that's not easy either. Usually you need a professional to do it, or even if you can do it in a few spots safely. But once a week on Mondays, the really keen observers put in not only the depth of the snow in the snowpack, but also how much water is in that snowpack. And in fact, in Cape Breton, I know of folks that get a long PVC pipe and they cut like notches on the end of it so they can turn it and it cuts its way through the snow, because you can get 4 or 5 feet of snow in Cape Breton in the Highlands. I don't think that's going to happen in the Eastern Shore. 99% of the time on a Monday, if you have time and you're really keen, just use your spare gauge and see how much water is in the snowpack that has built up over the year. Yep. Any questions? That is an addition. Like, most people don't do it, but those who do it, the data is extremely valuable.
I have an idea that I want to validate with you, is that many of us, we have the rain gauge in a post in which is the same like the weather station. I was thinking that maybe this white board could be just in the base of the post of the stand, and we could have a metric tape, so it could be I'm thinking that maybe it could be another way to measure the depth of the snow just directly, because the snow will cover the metric tape. But I don't know if it is possible and is trying to do it.
So some people do that, if I understand and if I go back to my gauge. So rather than this little stick, well, one thing you can do is you could actually put numbers on the stick. That gives you a pretty good estimate of first estimate of the snow. So even if you put a wooden ruler here as you can use it as a measurement. Some, they would have a post here, and then the gauge on top of the post, and the post has measurements on it. And so the snow is falling here, it's in the gauge, and everything is all in one location. So that's an option, of course. But the gauge is going to hide some of the snow underneath it. But usually it's blowing down, it's fairly smooth. It's a pretty good guess. And it makes it compact. So I have seen observers with setups like that, one setup in the same location. In my case, because this gauge is probably too affected by the house behind me, I get better snow observations out here. The other thing is the snow can sometimes, can you guys see me on the screen? No,
yeah, but very, very small.
Oh, okay. So I'll get back. Am I stop sharing now?
Yeah, now we are seeing you.
Me?
Yep.
Okay. So if sometimes you'll go out and the snow is is collect it along the rim. You'll get it like that high on the rim when you get sticky snow, and you wonder what to do with the snow. Well, some of the snow should be counted and some of it should not be because it's on either side. So you don't want to push it all in the gauge. So you can take a spatula, just flatten it. Some of it goes on the outside and some of it goes on the inside. That's the easiest way to kind of, you really want to be accurate, you know? You just flatten it down and the good snow goes in and the bad snow goes on the outside. So now, you'll never remember all of that, but CoCoRaHS has some cute short videos, and I'll just show you a couple of those. If I can find the short videos on my.
Yeah, and also these videos, Jim, I sent them through the Telegram group.
Oh, you did?
With the link, but it would be nice also if you can show us, but just to the others that know that these videos that are YouTube videos, they are on the Telegram group in the weather monitoring topic.
Oh, okay. So if I'm going to try to my okay, let's see if I can find those videos. Oh, here it is. Okay, so so if you Google training animations YouTube, they have a bunch of YouTube. You guys see this? You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, and so these are short videos. This one's a minute long.
The day has come and snow has finally fallen. It's time to take your daily precipitation measurement. You may find, especially in cases where there was little or no wind, that some snow has accumulated on the edge of your gauge. To remedy this, take a flat surface and press it directly down towards the top of your gauge. Some volunteers like to use a highly advanced piece of scientific equipment for this task: a snow swatter. As you press down, some snow falls inside the gauge and some falls out. The snow needs to be melted to take a measurement, so take your gauge inside. Waiting for the snow to melt could take all day. We don't recommend the microwave, and even placing it by the heater would still take a long time. Instead, we're going to add a pre-measured amount of warm water. If you use your inner measuring cylinder, you can measure exactly how much you will.
So you get the idea. These are really good, and they're quick. They're quick, simple, kind of funny. And so they're short videos. They're, if you want to Google, I don't know, these are the ones you have, Camilo, but it's called Training Animations.
Yeah, it's a playlist. We have the link with the playlist, so all the videos are there together.
Oh, okay, perfect. So those little training animation ones, the cartoons, they're quite cute, and you can watch, you know, 3 or 4 of them in 5 or 6 minutes, and covers a lot of the detail that I've talked about today. And it's a good reminder. I looked at them myself and reminded myself of some of the things that I'm not doing exactly right. Because, you know, sometimes it's better to take the snow core on the board rather than what's in my gauge. And I don't always do that. I just take my gauge and melt it and use that number. So, but nobody's perfect. Any amount of data is good data, as long as you put if you put some description of what you did, it's good data. And if you have the chance, especially when you have significant snow, to include the amount of water in it and the amount of snowpack on the ground on a Monday, that's really, really good. And we may be getting our first good snowstorm on Saturday. So Saturday might be a good opportunity to practice your snow measurement.
Great. So we are just on time to learn how to do it.
Okay, so let me see. I have some notes. I didn't even look at them.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, but I think it's time that any question, I really thanks Robin that has some questions, but you have any of you have more questions, I think this is the time, and I'm sure that on Saturday we will have new questions when we try
Now,
to do it.
if you want to email me, Camilo, just give them my email. I think it's probably on the distribution list.
Yeah, it's in the distribution list. Yeah.
Yeah, don't be shy about sending me an email and asking me a question. I helped set up the CoCoRaHS in all of Atlantic Canada, and I get lots of observers that send me a note and say, "Look, I don't know what to do, how to get the proper answer." I don't mind. Um, we're working together to try to get the best data possible, and so don't be shy about um, emailing me. And if you follow me on Twitter, I'll keep you aware of when the snow is coming. Or not Twitter, but Blue Sky or X. And it's the same as my email. It's YHZ Weather Guy. So lots of people right now this time of year are quite concerned about snow because of the traveling. And I'm advising people that if you're going to New Brunswick or Prince Edward Island, Thursday morning will not be a good travel day. If you're going anywhere on Saturday right now, Saturday looks like a messy day. So I would go Friday or I'd go Sunday, but I would not plan on going Saturday. And the good news is if we get the snow on Saturday, which it looks like we will, it probably will not disappear for Christmas. So which means we'd have a white Christmas.
Great, great. No, and also if you write an email, if you want, of course, but it would be great if you can copy all of us, because this is the idea of a network. But surely your question could be I think more than the question, the answer will help for our future questions. So the
Yeah.
idea is, try to collaborate. Maybe Jim, maybe we can speak later that maybe you could be part of the Telegram group, because this is also the idea with these kind of groups in which we have our private space to have our conversations, and in an easiest way than an email, because sometimes to write an email is quite more difficult to just to write a message. But no, that's great. So I don't know if there is any question maybe that you have. If not, so first I want to thank you again, Jim, to be part of us. I think it's amazing. Now I solve many of my doubts, because as you know, I'm quite a tropical guy. So for me to be -0 is quite strange. So I don't know how to, which could be my behavior.
And
So
I'll be looking forward to your
yeah,
snow observations on Saturday. So that's your homework.
yeah,
Your homework,
exactly.
your homework is snow. And the thing is what I do always, after I put my snow observation in or my rain observation, I go to the map and I look at the map to see what the observations are around me. Because if I'm standing out, I'm too much or too little, then I'll try to recall maybe I did something wrong, you know? And so especially snow, it's so hard to measure. It's easy to put the decimal in the wrong place, or I've seen some really weird observations. Many of the people I know, I send them an email. I think you put the decimal in the wrong place, and they laugh and fix it.
And,
So
and what you say, is very. Also, I want to use the space to thanks all of you for your observation, because the 23rd of November, I think, is a great example of what we are doing just now, because it was this big rainfall, and for the first time we have recording here, observations here on the Eastern Shore, but it was us. It's not that that was somebody that is taking this data. It's us.
Exactly. And that data likely contributed to the decision to take the restrictions off of Lake Major, because they saw that there was a wide swath of heavy rain throughout the Eastern Shore, and they could comfortably come to the conclusion that the watershed has now enough rain to take the drinking the water restrictions off of the Dartmouth water supply. And so the data that you never imagine what some of the data might answer questions in the future. And like I said, I've had lawyers ask me about what happened on a certain day. I always go to CoCoRaHS, and it provides me wonderful answers that I can provide to any insurance is always interested in it. But you never know what the question somebody might ask a question, what happened in the past, and your data is extremely valuable.
Yeah. Okay. No, thank you very much again, Jim. And I have some announcement that is also the idea of this meeting. The first is that our next session is already booked. Will be the Tuesday, 14th January, 5 p.m., same time, same day of the week. And we will be our guest speaker. She is part of a project in Dalhousie with citizen science, but related with eelgrass. And she is interested to start doing some observations and to have some citizen scientists in her project for the next year. So, and she using an app that is called iNaturalist. That I remember that I had a conversation with Robin about this app. So she will show us how they are using the iNaturalist app for her research. So I think this will be our next session, but I will send you the link and I will send you everything that you can know about how to connect. This is the first announcement. The second one is mainly in this case for Candace and Barb and Dave. That and of course Robin in your team with Maria also, and I think it's not team okay, but all of your team. It will be great if you could have your own rain gauge. So just if you can, you want to know more how to obtain the rain gauge, you can write me. Sure that surely Robin could give you information, or even directly to Jim. That because it will be great that you could have your own rain gauge and to start to do your observations. The next announcement is about the signs for the weather station. This is mainly for Anne and Stuart and Robin and Leon, and also Jonathan when he watched the video. Is that please, if you can later send me an email just to tell me if you were able to install your sign for the weather station. If you have any picture maybe of the weather of the sign in the weather station, it will be great. Or if you have any question with this sign, please let me know so I can help you. But this is only the sign for the weather station. And another announcement, but this is mainly for Stuart, is that I'm already speaking with the teacher in the school to install the panels, the informative panels in Moosehead Beach. So I think next year I will let you know about all the framing and everything. But just to inform you that it's advancing slowly, but it's advancing. Another announcement that we have many is about the beach profiles. I received a Stuart beach. The last one that I received was from Stuart, the Moosehead Beach. I know that in Causeway Beach on the Robbins team that you already did, but just to remember that. Send me please the upload the data in the CoCoRaHS. And Leon, when you have any question, anything about your bid profile, but just to say that I will be waiting for your data. Robin.
Yeah, I was waiting to upload it until because I had to ask you that question about the form, because the COBO form that Camilo sent us doesn't have an entry point for the number 30. It goes from 28, 29, 31, 32. So I've ignored that, and I put the 30 in the 31 place and the 31 in the 32 place. But Camilo's going to send us a revised form. But we're okay sending that in with the old form in terms of the data being okay.
Yeah. I think for this month, please do as you say. You know that just the 31, it will be the 30.
Yeah.
And just write in the observations. So I will know. So I will correct it, and I will send you the new form. I will notify you when I have the new form. So you will need all of you. You will need to delete the previous form and download the new one. Yeah, because it was my mistake. You know, this is very manual form, so I just skipped the number 30. It was my mistake, but it is very easy to solve. But it needs to delete the old form and upload the new one. But it's
a couple of little things. One is for the monitoring of the fauna. I don't think we could see anything that looked alive. So we didn't.
no.
I don't think we're registering anything, and we're also finding that using the app on my phone for the compass is problematic, because it depends on the how much what data access you have. So actually, an old-fashioned compass, I don't know if that will work better.
Yeah. I'm doing the same. I'm doing the same. I really suggest you to have your manual compass.
Yeah.
Because also I discovered that in my phone, this compass maybe was not calibrated, and it has like something like 40 degrees error with the manual compass. So now I'm just using the manual compass that is $10 in a Dollarama.
Because there's not very many cell phone towers around, and it needs to register. It definitely needs to have more than one point to connect with to know where it is, and so
Maybe.
it doesn't. At least that's what Gabe was saying. That's the case. But I'll have to try to locate an old-fashioned compass, because I don't have one.
Yeah. No, I think this is a good way. I think it's better to have the manual compass than on the phone.
Do you have a suggestion where I can find one of those?
Dollarama.
Dollarama, okay.
Yeah, they are $10. Okay, I bought in dollar store because we don't have here Dollarama. We have dollar store, and it costs, I think, less than $10, really, and it works very well.
So Camilo,
Yeah.
just before I leave, because my family is here for supper, I just want to share. This is 4 days away, so don't get too excited. But this is a weather model, the Canadian model, as it turns out. And this is the amount of snow forecast by the Canadian model, but the snow water equivalent, not the depth. The models forecast the amount of water in the snow. But the amount of wet snow along the eastern shore is in the orange, between 30 and 40. And so it could be 30 to 40 centimeters even of snow if this model is right. So there's lots of questions, but for those who like snow, this would be a fairly remarkable snow in December in the Eastern Shore. So we'll see. I'll keep updating on social media, but right now there's some hope for quite a bit of snow on the Eastern Shore, especially not necessarily where you are, Camilo.
Yeah.
Right now it's closer to Sheet Harbor, but we'll see what happens, and it could be quite fun.
And I think they will be very interested that next week we compare me and you there in the Sheet Harbor, and also you in Dartmouth,
Yes.
Jim, because we will see how accurate it also was the forecasting with my corner.
Perfect. That's a good idea. See how good the 4-day snowfall forecast is. And believe me, don't have your hopes. It's hard enough to forecast snow 1 day in advance. And in fact, what I tell people, it's hard enough to observe snow, let alone forecast it. Anyways, I'm going to leave now. So
Okay, no, thank you very much.
Care.
Yeah, no, I just have one last announcement. Just about the beach profile, just about the form. And the last thing that I have here is just to say thank you very much for this year. We will see again each other the next year. I really want to wish you Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you for the 2025. I hope we will have a great citizen and science year, and we will continue making history on the Eastern Shore.
Sounds wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye
Merry
bye.
Christmas.
Merry
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.
Good
Thanks.
Yule.
Merry Christmas.
Bye, Candace. Merry Christmas.
Yep. Bye-bye. Oh, there's
Bye.
Leon.